And Seth Harris, we were talking earlier with Admiral Stavridis and Richard Haass, and they were talking about the impact of our economic crisis on our position abroad, our standing in the world. And the reality, in the view of many, is that we are only as strong as our middle class is, the people that are powering our economy, working, taking care of their families every day. And the realities for those people this year in this pandemic are just so incredibly stark and difficult. As you look back over what we have seen this year, what do we need to do, in your view, to rebuild what has been broken here? I mean, is it possible?
Well, Casey, you're exactly right. This was the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year for American working families, with losing 20 million jobs in a period of about 6 weeks back in the spring. We're still 10 million jobs short of getting back to where we were in February. We had tens of millions of people filing for unemployment claims. We have epic hunger in the United States right now. We've lost hundreds of thousands of small businesses, especially in black and brown communities across the United States. And we've lost 340,000 souls in the United States, some of whom were the economic supports for their families. They were the breadwinners, and now those families are really looking at the danger of long-term poverty. So, yes, we're in a terrible situation right now, and the question is whether or not we're going to be able to overcome our politics and pass the kind of legislation in Washington, which is the only place where we can make this work, that will help to bring our economy back. Will we have a massive infusion of money investing in jobs and things like infrastructure and manufacturing, education, the care economy, other parts of our economy to help us to grow, as President-elect Biden laid out during the campaign, the Build Back Better program? Will we provide immediate emergency relief to Americans so that they can support themselves? Will we continue to extend unemployment benefits for those who are having grave difficulty finding jobs? Will we provide food assistance? Will we provide support to small businesses? We've done it now, and to their credit, Congress acted in the spring, and they've just acted. They can do it. They've shown us that they can do it, but there's a very substantial question going forward about whether or not they intend to help lift this economy out of this deep, deep hole that it's in.
Seth, when you talk about the deep hole that we are in and the importance of the federal government to help out state and local governments, I think people don't understand exactly what that means when it comes to things like transportation, like in New York City with the subways and transportation and buses. It turns out that they are operating at such a deficit that they'll have no choice but to raise their fares, which will increase the cost of workers to come and go from their jobs. The fact that governments will have to start laying off more and more people means that there are going to be more unemployed. And even when it comes to things like healthcare, we're starting to let off EMTs and ambulance workers and all of those things, and how that affects the health of everyday workers who can't afford to go to a private doctor, et cetera. Can you explain how we need this support right now, or otherwise it could just spiral and take decades to get out of?
Well, Susan, you're exactly right. And this is a lesson we should have learned from the Great Recession and the recovery from the Great Recession. And that is the critical importance of state and local governments in helping to bring our economy back. We have 1.5 million fewer state and local government employees right now than we did back in February. And that's because state and local governments have to balance their budgets. Their revenue has fallen through the floor because of the pandemic recession. They've had to spend huge amounts of money in order to deal with the crises in our healthcare system because of the pandemic. And they're getting no support from the federal government. One of the great tragedies of this period in our politics is the politicization of support for state and local governments. It's not just support to my hometown of New York City. It's support to Kentucky. It's support to Texas. It's support to other red states that voted for President Trump. Those states are also in dire economic shape right now. And your point about transit systems and our infrastructure generally is very, very important. Those are the systems. That's the way that people who work for a living get to work. It's how we deliver most of our goods and services in the United States. And those systems are struggling. I'm not sure they're going to be able to raise their rates enough to be able to support themselves. A lot of them, frankly, don't charge anything at all. And so they're going to be in very, very serious trouble. They are losing workers. They've certainly lost a lot of riders. The transportation system in our country is in dire shape. It was even before the pandemic struck. So this politicization of this money going to state and local governments is a tragedy, and it's self-defeating for the Republican members who are doing it.
Seth Harris, thank you very much for your perspective. We've been talking about Georgia and